I'm Bill Osborne, City Manager, and I want to welcome you to this meeting. We think that it's important for as many citizens as possible to know not only about the overall plans for the Downtown Conference Center, but especially as it relates to parking, not only for the future when the new parking deck is completed, but in the interim where there certainly will be changes because the current parking lot across the street will be the construction zone. One of the things all of us are aware of is that because of the move of the police department, municipal court, we do not have the demand for parking that we did in past years. And so while we do have some challenges, at least we don't have that particular challenge with us. Those of you who watch City TV, I'm sure have seen Jeff Knowles and Marcia Hampton with their particular program. Marcia is on assignment today. She's not with us, so Jeff's going to be flying solo. He's our Development Services Director, and he and Ms. Hampton have been the two people that have been working most of all on our Downtown Conference Center project, along with myself, our Finance Director, and several other staff members. But Jeff and Marcia, the two that I look to as being the key on making this happen. I'm looking around the room this morning, and I see we've got a couple of political candidates for a race that we have coming up. We have city elections in November. If you live inside the city of Douglasville, hope you will go vote for the candidates of your choice in that election. Very important to do so. We do have standing in the back of the room our current Mayor Pro Tem, John Shilroth, who's not seeking re-election. So he's watching the last few months of his term of office expire, and then he tells me he's going to come back so he can be a critic of whomever's in office after he leaves. So, but it's great to have all of you here this morning, and without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Knowles.
Again, thanks for being here. If for those who were here last time, this is really a follow-up meeting. Some of the commitments we made to the community, we're following through on. And for those of you who are here for the first time, I'm going to explain a little bit about what we're going through. Of course, this is a rendering of the new conference center that's going to be located directly across the street. The clock tower is essentially real close to the location where you see the current monument sign right there at the corner of the parking lot, at the corner of Spring and Church, or Price and Church. What we talked about in the last meeting was we have currently about 135 spaces in the parking lot that are striped off, and based on how people park and how the first person really parks behind the municipal court, we could get around 150 cars, maxing out at 180 for festivals and events like that. So, our goal was to find 150 to 180 spots that weren't currently designated in the downtown area, and be able to point those out easily. And I believe that what we're going to give you before you leave from here, and what we're going to continue to hand out to the public and around downtown, will help do that. Steve, if you'll flip it right over. We showed this map in the last meeting, and then we continued to work on this map through that process so that everybody could see what we have. And we have these maps in the back, and we're going to give them out as you leave. For our businesses downtown, we want to give you as many as you need. And we'll continue to, we'll take orders. We'll make sure that you get those in your businesses. I know I see Gumbo's over here. So we want to make sure your customers know, all the businesses in downtown, your customers know where available parking is. One real distinguishing mark in the middle of the map is the fountain in O'Neill Plaza, and that's kind of what we're trying to tie everything off of so that people understand as a good wayfinding point. The fountain in O'Neill Plaza is a good point of reference. We have it, and this is a lot easier to see on your map. We do have the construction zone here, and totally unrelated to that construction for the conference center, you're going to have Plaza East kicking off at pretty much the exact same time. We have that. We have some minor parking here and here designated because they're going to also be impacted as we're working on that project. But we do have especially here at United Community Bank and then Regions Bank, we have a number of parking spaces, as well as at the chamber. that are designated for any time on the weekends and during the weekdays after 5 p.m. Here and here. We picked up about 130 spaces between those two lots. That gives us essentially the same parking we had before, with not much more walk, honestly. When we measure distances from the very back corner of this parking lot to the very back corner of this parking lot, you get pretty much the same walking distance to the fountain in O'Neill Plaza. And again, that's what we're trying to use as our reference point. And we've pointed out, got a P on basically every one of these lots where we have available parking. And we have, I believe, in the front, here's one. And then in the back, we also have another one, so that it's going to be a blue sign. It's going to have a.
This is the actual sign.
We changed designs pretty frequently yesterday. This is the sign, big, blue background, highly reflective, and we're going to be showing these in the downtown area. And then on our special events, we'll be using your standard informational sign that we'll have out. We still have a conference center. We're going to be dealing with the same issues that everybody else is going to be dealing with during this time of construction in progress. And these will be what we use during event parking. We've identified on the weekends the Masonic Lodge as a good opportunity. It's finding parking spaces that haven't been used before, and finding parking spaces that we didn't currently have in our inventory. Everybody tried to park basically across the street. So where else do we have parking? I think through this map we've identified that pretty easily. During the week, I've identified anytime on the weekends and after 5 on the weekdays for these businesses, the two banks and the Chamber of Commerce in close proximity. We've also noticed that Courthouse Square East and West have a lot of parking during the day. We are working with the county. I know they put up some parking only signs for specific interests that they had in that area. We are working with them to make sure that when the time comes, we have all available parking in the downtown that we can get. City parking, when you look out in the parking lot, and we counted up the other day, I think we have about 35 city employees that drive vehicles that are parking in that lot across the street. There's probably not more than about 10 or 15 more cars out there than those. The city employees will be parking behind the old police precinct, and it's not marked for parking because that's where city employees will be parking. City vehicles will not be left there. We'll either have those at the maintenance and sanitation facility or at Hunter Park. So we're not going to be occupying spaces with additional vehicles that don't need to be in the downtown area. We have this available at the back. Stephanie will be handing them out as you leave. And like I said, for our businesses, let us know how many you need, because we want to make sure that you have them in your businesses so we can point out parking to everybody in the downtown area. It's going to be easy to find once we get our blue signs up, which are going to be going up in the probably next 2 weeks, honestly. We should have them up by the end of next Friday in all of our available parking areas, and we'll have all that in place. I'm going to turn it over to Alex to give us a little rundown on the construction progress and where we're going to be, and basically how they see their timeline going. Alex is from Hardin Construction, and he's going to be our on-site guy. So if you have any problems with the construction going on across the street, this is the guy.
I'll be the guy to talk to. Thanks, Jeff.
Steve will kick it off for you.
All right. Just want to take a few minutes to just give you guys a little idea of how we're planning to approach building the conference center and how we're trying to minimize how we affect the businesses and our neighbors. We've got a little movie here. I'll kind of talk as it goes through. Just to give you a little bit of reference when it starts, just so you know where we're at. This is Church Street. This is obviously where we're standing right now. You've got Price and Spring. The timeline will go across the bottom here as it goes through. One thing that you may have a concern, given this is a parking meeting, is where are all of our construction workers going to be parking? Our subs are going to be contractually obligated to park in the Douglas County transit lot out by 20 and bus in. So obviously parking is a huge issue, is where we're going to be able, it's very limited, and we're going to make sure that our guys aren't going to add to that problem. You can see right now we've got some detention vaults going in, and our foundation walls going up. You can see we've got temporary fencing around to protect the public. One other thing that I want to talk about is our deliveries. We're going to have some pretty major structures going in for the parking deck as well as our steel members. Our subs are going to be directed to not go on Church Street. That'll keep that main thoroughfare open and help with traffic and with and when you also have functions. You can see now the timeline is around April. At this point, sometime in April, we're looking to turn over the parking deck to the public. Obviously, we'll be working next to the open parking deck, but really what that means is these limited parking areas that we're talking about will only be for a 6.5-month period. Right now, we've got our structural steel going up. Again, we'll have our steel completely erected by the time the deck opens, so we're not going to be swinging steel around a public open parking deck. Last couple items, we've got our clock tower going up. We'll finish up with our landscaping and sidewalk, and then our fence will come down, and this is what the finished product is going to look like.
This time we'll take any questions that you may have and try to get everybody's questions answered. I think Sarah was first, Bill. Oh.
I just had a quick question. Will the street side parking still be available, like right out in front of the conference center and across the street?
No.
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 When they do the referendum?
Correct. I don't count on any of the available parking along there. Even if it is available, I wouldn't park there, honestly.
Well, how will that affect I know that like the restaurants, they have lots of delivery trucks that come in.
We've talked about that, and we've kept most of our delivery trucks off of Front Street. And what we're seeing is off of Front Street, we don't have a ton of parking in the early morning, and we're going to change our policy on that and allow for our delivery trucks during this time period to be delivering off of Front Street. Phil.
Is there any plans for remarking Main Street?
Yes.
I think that would probably.
Yes, absolutely. That's we're working on that right now. That was part of when GDOT came through and resurfaced. They resurfaced and didn't have in the contract the restriping for the parking, and we're working on that right now. That is one of the major concerns of this downtown area.
Somebody mentioned to me that they had heard that when they do the restriping out front, they're going to do a parallel parking style. Is that correct?
That's been talked about. It's not been contracted or anything like that. It has been one of the ideas that's been thrown out there for safety reasons. I think everybody that's ever parked along Front Street in those diagonal spots is taking their life in their own hand. Honestly, every time they've pulled out, and it's
during this period doing that, I think would not be, maybe later.
Okay. All right, we'll take that into consideration. I appreciate that. Councilman Shorter.
The event signs that you got up there, Jeff, will they be made available to one of the restaurants or something when they have an event like the Irish Bread Pub has their car show coming up? Would that be available to them for event parking?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, they'll need to come see our conference center staff. Jennifer Bean. I was looking for Carlos, but there he is. Carlos in the back, Jennifer Bean. They'll make sure that that's taken care of.
Will there be construction on Saturday?
Yes, there will be construction on Saturday. We're trying to make as brief a timeline as possible, and that's definitely one of the things we have to have open to opportunity for this downtown area, and we are being cognizant that we have a residential area in close proximity to this construction site, and we're gonna alter our timelines, our hours of operation on the weekends.
Jeff, it was my understanding that there wouldn't be construction during special events on Saturday.
Correct. Like the Taste or the car show or things like that.
Jeff, when do you expect to actually close the parking lot? I know you see your timeline is to construction, but when do you actually expect?
Groundbreaking right now scheduled for September the 22nd, which is fast approaching, and we expect to close the parking lot immediately after that. Sarah?
I I know that you said a lot of emphasis on like the after 5 parking being United Community Bank, the Chamber, and Region. But what about when you have conferences like during the day and during the week at the conference center? Where are they going to park?
We've also identified, Steve, can you bring up the parking map? We've also identified the old DFB Mortgage, which is directly across the street from where Magnolia Cafe was at. There's a lot of parking right there that's, now that Magnolia Cafe is not there and DFB Mortgage is not there, there's a good bit of parking there that we've identified. And really, at the old Bank of America lot, which is right here, a little bit further down across the street from Ace Hardware, I believe, or Hughes Ray, right in that general area. That's another very large parking area that's going highly underutilized at this point, and we look to use both of those locations. And it's really it's a brief walk. I know we're all a little spoiled, myself included. All the city staff, we're used to parking right in front of our building and walking right into our door. And we're going to be making a few sacrifices for a huge, significant change in our downtown area. Either or.
Have you given any thought to maybe a shuttle for special events or when you have a large gathering? Is there any idea that could be used, or is it available?
Absolutely. Our maintenance and sanitation director, Greg Roberts, is definitely there. He is. Right back there. Stand up, Greg. Wave your hand. He's offered to shuttle. He's offered to shuttle people for special events and different opportunities like that. So if we do have large special events, we've talked to the sheriff about the parking lot down there in front of the jail. Unless it's visitation, another parking lot's going highly underutilized, and it's really just a brief ride on a shuttle to the downtown area.
Will that also be available to restaurants for when they do special events, like when you, because this is going to fall right on our St. Patrick's Day, which is like our biggest event of the year. Will that also be available to us, or is that just available to the conference center?
We need to talk about that, but I don't see why we wouldn't make that available to the downtown area, honestly. Greg's available to drive the shuttle pretty much any time. Night or day.
And the parking right down there by Magnolia, that would be for like our business parking too, like our employees during the daytime. That's where you want us to direct our employees to park
absolutely.
As of the 22nd forward.
Yes.
Because ours are spoiled too.
We are, and I've had to share some horror stories in our staff meetings about what it's like not to work directly across the street from where you park, and then we've shared those stories, and we're dealing with how to get employees from one location to the next. Yeah, absolutely. Douglasville fit. Any other questions? City manager.
I just want to make just one other comment before we close. I'm going to get Alex to come back up just a minute. Come on back up, Alex. I'm going to put you on the spot now. And I think most of you are aware of this, is the mayor of the city council went through a very extensive process of selecting the architects that we have for this project. We interviewed a number of companies, and the company we chose is, you can see, had it up here somewhere, it's on the other picture. Raven Associates out of Atlanta, and I think they did a very good job with the architectural plan. Likewise, we went through a process in selecting the construction company, and one of the things we did was we issued a request for qualifications. Now, we know that there are a lot of construction companies that are looking for work in this day and time, and so we, on the one hand, we certainly were aware of that, but we wanted to be sure we had a construction company that had a lot of experience on building conference centers and parking facilities. So one of the things we did, though, in our qualifications is we did say there must be the use of local contractors, local suppliers at a minimum of 20%. We'd like more than that. and all of the firms that were among the finalists talked with us about this. Hardin Construction, when the mayor and the city council members individually scored what they thought of the 4 finalists, Hardin scored much higher than any of the other companies. And so we were pleased that we were able to negotiate with them, and they did work with us closely. In the beginning, their bid was about $13.3 million. We negotiated with them, so they ended up reducing that by about $1.7 million to $11,655,000. And I think that could safely say that could challenge anybody. If you look at what they will build and you look at their plans, we were able to make certain reductions on those things that you don't see. We didn't change the footprint other than on the rear, which we think we made it a little better. We feel like the quality maintained itself, that Hardin did. They decided they really wanted this job, and they were willing to cut back on their profit margin some in order to do the job. And we're very pleased to have Hardin. It has certainly a reputation in the South and really around the nation. Now, I know Alex looks young to some of you, myself and Harvey, but he's got some good experience. So now one of the projects, he's going to be the man day by day here. Now one of the projects you did recently up in Cobb County was what?
Cobb Energy Performing Arts Center.
So if you're familiar with the Cobb Energy Performing Arts Center, the person who was in charge of that project is the person that Hardin has said would be in charge of our project. So we're looking for a good finished product. We appreciate all of you being here this morning, and if you'll stick around, any of you afterwards, any other questions that you may have. Yes, sir.
I have one other question. It's my understanding that when the parking deck is completed, then we'll be able to use the parking deck even though there is construction going on the conference center. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And that was Hardin's plan to get the parking deck completed and open to the public as soon as possible. But as you saw, the sequencing to have the other work done on the conference center so that when we open the parking deck, it could be opened safely. You know, this is a tight construction area, and that was one of the things that we stressed in talking with the companies. And it is a tight construction area. But I think Alex was talking about a project they did on, what, about a half acre that was about 12 stories tall or whatever?
A little less than an acre, and it was 21 stories.
Okay, so they obviously are accustomed to working in tight spaces and being well aware of the safety needs in the surrounding area.
One other question in the same scheme of things. Will there be any charge for parking in the parking deck?
Let me answer that in 3 parts. One, the city government will have to make decisions as we get ready to open as to what they would be looking at. But we are looking at making sure that people who come downtown to shop, to do business, to dine, are not charged to park in that lot. That's our plan. There will be income, obviously, that we will be receiving from the parking deck, and that will be from the events that are held in the conference center. And that basically would be part of, if you are having a meeting in the conference center, the rental of the space that you would have in the conference center includes not only the rental of that room, but also your ability to use the parking. Okay. Thank y'all all for coming, and y'all have a great day.